Hello everyone and welcome to week 11. I hope you had a relaxing spring break, or maybe you're reading this before your break in order to get ahead. Either way, this is week 11 and we only have 6 weeks left after this and then finals week. So let's talk about the upcoming assignments for the week. A couple of announcements. I was able to get caught up on grading and just wanted to remind you that your video number 3 was due March 27th. There was a few people who don't have that in yet, so April 3rd would be the last day to turn that in. Due April 10th are your assessment artifacts and reflection from the QRI with your initial student. Also, your case study report is due for the first student. And then your participation activity for the week is a class Google Doc where you need to add your data. I just checked it and it doesn't look like anyone's updated their data yet, so please make sure you do that by April 10th so that classmates can use it for the week 11 participation activity and plan some interventions using that data. And then due April 17th, amongst many other things, is the parent permission form. That is the last day to get that parent permission form in so that I can access, score, grade all of your work with your new student. So the link to submit that is in the spring break block on Titanium, so please make sure you get that in. Week 11 readings, there's just one. It is from the National Institute of Literacy, published in 2007. It is a pretty comprehensive handbook about what content area teachers should know about adolescent literacy. And if you hold on a second, I will show you what that looks like. So here's what that looks like. The PDF file is available on Titanium. Again, it's a good 72 pages, but if you take a look at the table of contents, you see that it goes through each key literacy component: decoding, morphology, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, and then for each one it talks about what do skilled readers do in that area, what are some of the challenges faced by adolescent readers, how can instruction help adolescent students with that area, and then what do we still need to know. So this is very informative and helpful as you transition from working with an emergent literacy student to an adolescent reader and need to plan accordingly. So might want to just peruse the key areas of this piece, specifically looking at those key components of literacy and, what you should do as far as instruction goes for adolescent students. All right, so that is your only reading for the week. Assignments due this week, there are a few. First, the parent permission form, again, I need on April 17th submitted. Second, you will be doing your first assessment artifact and reflection assignment with the new student. Third, there is a participation activity which you will do in the format of a discussion forum, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. Again, late assignments will be reduced by 1 letter grade, must be submitted no later than 1 week past the due date. Weekly discussion posts and participation activities will not be accepted late. So the participation activity this week is going back to that Google Doc. There's the link. It's also in your checklist. For week 11, what you need to do is access the Google Doc, analyze the spreadsheet as if it were for a class or school. Then you, as the literacy specialist, need to plan interventions to meet the student needs. So what is your plan? I want you to come up with at least 3 concrete ideas for how you would approach this group of students. Consider addressing next steps for grouping, assessment, and/or instruction, and then you will post your response to the discussion forum. Remember, if you are not the first person to post, Make sure you are reading the people ahead of you and integrating their comments into your post and adding on to things that they're discussing. So this is a very real world application type activity. Since when I was a literacy specialist, I did this, every few months as I was collecting new, more current data, looking comprehensively at all of the students in need of Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention, looking at all of their needs on all of the different diagnostics and assessments, and then making groupings, making my schedule, then planning next steps for instruction, collaborating with the teacher. So you will get plenty of practice, well, not plenty, but some practice doing that with this assignment. All right, this week you are working with your new student, your older student, who could be anywhere from grades 4 to high school is fine. For your first session, we are again focused on the affective domain, and in addition to that, you need to give the QRI word list, because your second session with this student, you will be giving the QRI, and you need to know where to start with that. So for your first session, you need to give some sort of interest inventory so you can get to know the student, and I put a handful of those up on Titanium. You can use one of mine or make up your own. If your student is grades 1 through 6, you will give the motivation to read profile, which you gave previously. If your student is 6th grade and above, you need to give the adolescent MRP, which is currently on Titanium in week 11. And then you will also need to do the QRI word list. Again, you should start 2 grade levels below where the student currently is and then go up or down from there. And then lastly, make sure you do a parent interview or survey. And one of your colleagues, Karen Brown, actually did a pretty exceptional job copying and pasting and putting together her own parent interview form that she came up with for her last student using a variety of sources. So I put that resource on Titanium for you to utilize as well. I thought it was a pretty good interview form, better than a lot of ones that I've seen in the past. So that is what you need to do for your first session with your student: interest inventory, MRP, QRI word list, and a parent interview survey. Now again, for your second session, this is going to be where you give the QRI, which is why it's imperative to give the word list for your first session. Your first session you do not have a video due, but the second session you must submit a full assessment of 1 QRI. So even though you're looking for the student's independent and instructional levels for both narrative and expository, I only need to see video from one of those assessments, but I need to see it from the very beginning until completion to make sure you've done each part of that assessment. So again, session 2, which starts the week of April 17th, you need to find the student's true instructional and independent levels for both genres. I'll also be talking about this in the lecture next week, but you need to be using the Hasbrook and Tyndall rubric in order to find their percentile ranking. And then I'm also going to introduce you to Rosinski's multi-dimensional fluency rubric, which takes into account their expression, their phrasing, smoothness, pace, all of those things. So in addition to the QRI, we're going to add a couple new dimensions to look at fluency indicators and words correct per minute. So with your older students, if they're not having issues with decoding, they could do one of the assessments silently, and they wouldn't need to read it out loud. However, for the sake of this course, you need to have them at least read one aloud, so you can see truly that they aren't having issues with decoding, and that way you can try applying the rubric and finding their percentile for words correct per minute, which you are all very good at calculating. All right, some heads up for week 12. Week 12 starts April 17th. You'll have an article to read, which has to do with fluency automaticity, prosody, and other definitions for fluency. That's going to be our focus, is going to be more of the QRI, informal reading inventories, and fluency. So we're going to take a look at Lipson and Wixon and what they have to say in Chapter 9 about informal reading inventories. We're also going to take a look at some fluency assessments provided by the core. You will do your second practicum session focused on the QRI. You will need to submit your assessment artifact and reflection 2B, and then you will have video number 4 due, as well as a participation activity, which is going to be a case study where you need to look at a QRI and kind of analyze it and plan next steps. All right, so that's what's going on for weeks 11 and 12. Join me back and we will start the content for this week, which is focused on differentiation practices, adolescent literacy, and preparing for your second student.